News has just dropped over the last 24 hours that Carlton have advised that Lewis Young and Matthew Kennedy should consider seeking a trade to another AFL club. So as the days go on, the pickings are getting slimmer and slimmer for Collingwood. So whenever news like this comes out, I'm going to have to speak about it because I feel like Collingwood need to get something out of this trade window. Whether I think it's these two guys or not, you're going to have to stick around for the remainder of the video to find out. But let's start with Matt Kennedy. He's been out of favour when it comes to the role that he has been wanting to play. He's an inside mid. He's been at Carlton for the last 6-7 years. Prior to that, he was at GWS. And in 2022, he spent the most amount of time in the midfield in his Carlton career. He spent 58% time on ground in the midfield, essentially, at those centre bounces. And that's where he had his best year. He averaged 25 disposals and coaches' votes here and there. And that's when when Carlton got the most out of Matthew Kennedy within the midfield. But with players like Adam Chera, Sam Walsh, Cripps holding it down, it's going to be a difficult midfield to get in when you got Cripps as the main man, the main inside man there. So that's where Collingwood's deficiency is right now. With Tom Mitchell, the uncertainty around his foot, the unsuccessful attempt with Finlay McRae in 2024. Can that be different in 2025? Maybe. Ed Allen isn't exactly big-bodied, but can win an inside ball if needed. So who is it that can fulfill this role in the meanwhile? And the other thing we need to wonder is, what are we willing to give up for Matthew Kennedy? He's in contract till the end of next year. So picks are going to have to go back Carlton's way. And I would imagine Carlton would be pretty bullish on they'd be hoping for an early second rounder, I would imagine. And they'll shop that around because he hasn't had the worst season either as that half forward rotating in the mid. What he finished with this year? So he plays all 24 games, subbed off in this first half of that game, the elimination final against Brisbane, averages 17 disposals, close to 7 contested possessions a game, whereas in 2022 it was 11. So he's inside certified when he is in the middle. And his goals, he averaged nearly a goal a game. So while he was shifted around, it's not like he underperformed in the role. I think it's more a case of, will Carlton need different types of players, and Dan Houston's to move the ball well, and that's something they lack. They lack a bit of polish. And Matthew Kennedy is a hard-working guy. He's not exactly going to lace you out going inside 50, whereas Collingwood sort of already have that with Pendlebury. De Goey can do it, Nick Dacos. We need those harder inside mids like Matthew Kennedy. And for those of you wondering, well, why is Carlton having this massive exodus of players, delistings, advising players to look elsewhere for other clubs? It's because they are at capacity. I think going into the offseason, they stood at 44 players on their list. The maximum you can have is 43, and they've got a bunch of players they're looking to bring in. They're hoping to bring in a superstar equivalent to 2 first-rounders, so whether that's Dan Houston or the likes. And then they've got Nick Haynes, so there's 2 players there looking to bring in. And then they've got the Camporelli brothers, that's 4 players there. And then they've got other picks as well within the draft. So they need to make space. And that segues into what would I be willing, if I was the list manager at Collingwood, to give for Matthew Kennedy? Well, the reality is, right now, there is not a whole lot within the market available. So I imagine this is going to be a competitive field. And outside of that, you've got Hobbs and Peatling. And I haven't heard much about Hobbs. And Peatling had a really good final series. So I'm concerned as to how much his value has risen in the last couple of weeks based off his 2 performances in the finals series. So do I want him to come to Collingwood? I think he is of priority now, given what's left and how much we need someone who's ready-made to hold it up. It's just, what can we give him? So we've got pick 33, pick 48, pick 51. I don't think Carlton are going to accept a bundle of picks because they've already got a bunch of that, and will probably want to maybe even stockpile for, not stockpile for next year, but maybe bank some futures for next year rather than having to dish some out this year. Even if we give them, say, hypothetically, pick 33 for this year, maybe they trade that elsewhere so that they don't have to, I guess, use that pick in this draft and potentially push that forward. I'm not too sure. I'd have to speak to Pommy about the logistics behind that. But as far as I'm concerned, if we look at just face value, what is Kennedy worth? You got pick 33 being the high end of the spectrum of what he's worth in that second round. And then you've got pick 48. Is that even a second rounder? Let me just check. It's not. That's a third rounder. So we've got pick 33, which is actually a late second rounder. So that's, I mean, if we can get pick 20, which ends up being pick 21 from Gold Coast with all the compensation that goes down the track, it might even be pushed out to pick 24 after all the academies and father selections. They're probably going to try and go for that early second rounder. Are they willing to take pick 33? I'm not too sure, but that's sort of how I see that panning out if Collingwood were to attack this trade. And I think, go ahead. I don't think there's a whole lot to like outside of what's being offered in the trade window right now. And he won't cost a whole bunch, which is good. But when we talk about Lewis Young gives me Billy Frampton energy. And if he is better than Billy Frampton, he's only a little bit better and is quite slow off the mark. Again, another taller defender, above 200 centimeters. I just don't know. And the fact that he's still under contract, we're going to have to give away picks. If we're going to give away picks, I'd rather we chase Denver Granger Barras from Hawthorn. I still haven't heard anything in regards to whether he is wanting out. There's nothing that has come about that just yet. Given Hawthorn have only just been eliminated from the finals, so they'll have their exit meetings and whatnot. So we'll know a little bit more in the coming days. Even with like Membry, right? If we get Membry, you could even consider bringing him into the back line because he does often swing from time to time from forward to defense and provide that respite when St Kilda are under the pump late in quarters. So that's an option there. And if you saw my video yesterday, why don't we just try Kruger? He's similar height to Lewis Young. He's more athletic. He's well acquainted with the game style, game plan. That's our option there. So for me, Lewis Young is a no. Because on top of that, we also have Caleb Marchbank, who's been delisted and would come for free. These are the little top-ups that we should consider rather than spending picks on someone like Lewis Young. Like, I would be extremely disappointed if we spent picks on someone like Lewis Young when we could just top up and bring in an unrestricted free agent like Membry. And then also consider Caleb Marchbank, who has had an injury-riddled career. But when he's playing and is on the field consistently, he's actually quite a good defender. I really rate him. I've always liked the way he's gone about his footy. It's just a matter of whether he can get on the pitch. And when it costs you nothing, why wouldn't you just consider that? Why wouldn't you just consider Nathan Kruger? Why wouldn't you just consider potentially offering something to Hawthorn for Denver Granger Barras? So that's my thought process behind all of that. Matthew Kennedy is like a kind of yes for me. Lewis Young is a definite no. I think there are other players that we should consider in the market in the delisted players pool as well. And then if we're going to trade, let's use our picks for younger players within the 20 to 25 age bracket. I guess the exception is Matthew Kennedy, 27 going to 28, but probably still has good footy ahead of him. And if it's at a lesser cost, then we can probably justify that as long as we still add younger players around that existing older age pool. Anyways, that's my 2 cents on this matter. And as always, if you want to provide your input, let us know in the comment section and we will go from there. Go Pies.